You guys look like... What do they look like, Jimmy?
Dorks. They look like a couple of dorks.
Get those birds! Birds!
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
What? Are you kidding? We got some family here. Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
You are listening to the In the Mouth of Dorkness podcast, the official podcast of the Alamo Drafthouse, Winchester.
Welcome to another edition of the It Modcast podcast. Joining us is Brian Young.
God, I love being a turtle!
The Turtle Dork.
Tonight is not a game, it's a hunt. I want you to kill the girl called Alita.
And also joining us is Lisa Gullickson.
Quick, suck it before the venom reaches my heart.
Wife Dork.
It's out of my hands. I'm only a clock.
And Brad Gullickson.
And for gosh sake, watch your language.
That's not going away anytime soon.
Mouth Dork.
Hello, cyborgs. Good morning, sewer babies.
And I'm your host, Darren Smith.
Warm. Warmer. Disco.
The Disco Dork. Don't drop that shit. And welcome to another edition of the It Modcast podcast.
Yay! Eclectic quotes. Eclectic quotes.
Yep.
That yellow cake, man.
Don't drop that shit. How's everyone doing?
Good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. How about you, B?
Yeah. Full?
Full?
You're
We're
full.
good.
He ate a sandwich that was scrapple and egg whites. I will never get over that combination.
Yeah.
You need balance.
Yeah,
You must
that's all it
maintain
is.
balance in the universe.
it's
The
balance.
yolk is not going to be the thing that ruins you, Brian.
I don't know. He might be on the precipice, and that might have tipped him. Like that one little bit egg
Man,
yolk.
I know Scrapple's not really good for you,
It's
but
not?
I still want to get my protein.
Right.
I'll have one barbacoa burrito bowl, extra rice, and a Diet Coke.
Please. Outside of your taste in breakfast brunch, how was your weekend dork?
Weekend Dork was actually pretty good. This has been a weekend I've been fiending for a while because this year, 2019, I haven't been to the movies probably as much as you guys. But this is Glass was the first movie I saw this year. Disappointed by.
Was that the last thing you've seen in the theater?
in the theater? I believe so.
Damn.
Yeah. I mean, you think about it, it was like 3 weeks ago, probably. Yeah, 3 weeks ago, probably. And so this weekend, Alita came out. Happy Death Day to You came out. And it was a good weekend at the movies, I have to say. If you looked at my letterbox, I enjoyed both of these thoroughly. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Alita because save the latter one for our review cast. Alita Battle Angel, man. Now, I know, Brad, Lisa, you guys haven't seen it yet.
We wanted to. We just couldn't make it work.
Yeah, so I'm not going to spoil anything. I mean, if there's anything about this film. Well, actually, some things can be spoiled, so I'll keep it really light. And I know you saw it, Darren. And I just got to say, this is a film I've been waiting for quite some time. I've heard about this movie for probably 20-plus years when it was announced that James Cameron was going to do this. And unfortunately, he's decided to do multiple Avatar sequels.
Did you say you said unfortunately?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
because I wanted to see James Cameron's take at the time.
And I never want to see an Avatar sequel.
True. But I'm curious.
I
but
like glowing mushrooms and stuff.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Keep it.
Yeah, because I just thought because of how James Cameron is so innovative with filmmaking technology and having a baseline knowledge of Alita, I thought this was perfect for him to do, and I was excited for this project. And then Avatar, I was like, oh man, we're never going to see this movie. And so he passes it to Robert Rodriguez, who I'm a huge fan of, although recently he hasn't made a hit film that I've liked. But I mean, his filmography, early in his career, I really liked a lot of his stuff.
Before this film, what was the last Rodriguez movie you really liked?
Oh goodness, man, it's been a while. I want to say probably what's the double feature with Tarantino?
Planet Terror.
Planet Terror. I really enjoyed Planet Terror.
It's fun.
As a B movie. It's a really fun movie. The Machete movies didn't really do it. I mean, the first one's okay. The second one is hot garbage.
I agree with that assessment.
Yeah, but I would say that because Sin City I really enjoyed, not the second one, but the first one in 2005. So probably 2007 for me, Planet Terror. So it's been over 10 years since he's made a good movie. So he's had a rough he's had a rough go.
All right, so tell it. Like, how do you do?
Yeah, I really enjoyed the film a lot. I mean, I'll start with the good stuff that I liked. I liked the world building in this. The world building, and it reminded me of something that you said about Ghost in the Shell. Because I remember when we talked.
I don't even remember what I said about Ghost in the Shell.
I know, it's crazy how my brain remembers certain different things.
I remember what my brain said. Z.
But
I snoozed.
But going to like the world building, I remember you were saying like how the world didn't feel lived in.
Oh yeah.
Because like in that, like you have this city, but the city's not populated with people.
Yeah, where is everyone?
Where is everybody? This movie, you see that the Iron City, the city that's below Zalem, the city in the sky. Like he does a good job of showing you like how this world is built, like how it feels to live in this world. Even though there's a lot of green screen, but there are still some practical.
Well, everything in the city below, well, not every, but all those are practical sets.
Yeah, those are practical sets. I know they did some green screen stuff, but I know like and it feels very lived in. The way they build out the technology, as far as like with Dr. Ito, who played brilliantly by Christoph Waltz, the way he helps these people that are kind of like amputees, and they use like mechanical parts to give them arms to kind of reassemble themselves. I thought all that stuff, as far as like the way they were able to build out the character and the story and the world, they did. And James Cameron is really good at building out worlds, and so I thought you could definitely see his touch on the story with that. Then let's get to the motion capture. Rosa Salazar, I thought her performance in this was phenomenal, and I think her a lot of people had issues with the motion capture performance aspect of it, as far as her with the big eyes, but I mean, I don't necessarily see an issue with that. A lot of people talk about the uncanny valley. Now, this isn't something like Rogue One, where you have
Peter Cushing.
Peter Cushing trying to replicate another human who's not here with us anymore. But this is more like a synthetic cyborg, and it feels natural within the world that they've created. So it never feels distant. It never feels out of place, and it may kind of take you back for the first couple of minutes, but you really settle into it. And the performance from Rosa Salazar, she transcends any doubts or any seams that you may think you see in the visual effects, and her performance comes through that motion capture, and it is phenomenal. The relationship that she has with Dr. Ito, I thought, was the relationship that really sold me. That father-daughter dynamic of that relationship, I thought was really strong in the film. I thought she has good chemistry with the kid, Keen Johnson, who played Hugo. They have good chemistry. I didn't really buy into their love story as much. And it just didn't have that emotional impact at the resolution of the story that I really wanted to see. But I don't know. I thought that a lot of that stuff really, really worked. Even the villains, Ed Skrein, I thought was really good. Francis, I don't know why I always think of him as Francis now from Deadpool. Francis.
It's basically who he's playing, like a cybernetic Francis, but he's great in the role.
Yeah, he's really good in that role.
And a lot of it has to do with that character design.
Yeah,
it's a
absolutely.
Badass character design.
Yeah,
And not to take anything away from his performance, but because you can tell he's having a lot of fun with that character. But the character design of I was about to say Francis, of Zapan is his name. The intricacies of his design, when you look at that character, he's not just a cyborg in name, with a human face. I mean, you can see the detail of machinery, like in his back. In his back he's a very flamboyant and lavishly designed cyborg, because as a character, he's vain. He's very vain. Mm-hmm. He's very concerned about his face and how pretty he is. But even his cybernetic parts have enhancements and accoutrements and a flourish and a flair that other cyborgs just don't have.
Yeah, even the design, like when you look at his back and the way that's designed, just some of the, it's very intricate, and it's a great design for his character. The action sequences, man, are phenomenal in this movie. I talked a lot about how a lot of times with modern cinema, where you get the close cameras and shaky cam because it feels like filmmakers who don't know how to shoot action try to hide it or mask it. This movie, Rodriguez, who knows how to shoot action and working with visual effects in this with this type of budget for the first time, but he knows how to pull the camera back. You know, the geography of it. It's very fluid, very seamless. It's really, really good action, and the motorball sequence is phenomenal in this. It's really, really cool. Some of the things I took issue with, again, going to the love story with Hugo, just not really selling the emotional impact of that story, even though I thought they had really good chemistry together. And I thought the villains, Mahershala Ali and Jennifer Connelly, I don't want to give too much about her character because you don't really see it a lot in the trailer, but to me there's a coldness to her character, especially when you find out the relationship that she has with other characters in the film. There's a coldness to a character that just felt, I don't know, I don't want to say contrived, but I didn't really understand a lot more. I wanted to get a little bit more about her character, as far as like a little bit of her backstory to find out why there was such a distance as far as like her relationship to other people in the story and some of her motivations. And Mahershala Ali almost felt like he was being a puppet to, well, which he was, but I don't know. He's such a dynamic. He's so good. I love Mahershala Ali. I just wish he had a little bit more to do. But I thought with what they were given, they were able to do a lot with those roles. It definitely teases sequels, which I hope this movie does well because I would love to revisit this world. I enjoyed it. I mean, the script is not that strong, but everything else just kind of transcends that.
Does it feel like a Robert Rodriguez movie?
It doesn't. It's a good film, and it's probably the best film that I've seen since Planet Terror. But you know what? He does throw in some things that I feel like is homages to it, where the city, Iron City, feels like a Mexican border town city. And I saw an interview where he said he wanted, him and James Cameron wanted Iron City to feel like Panama City. And it feels that way when you're walking through the streets of Iron City.
Well, the reason for that is, and Cameron is always a stickler for realism, even in something as fantastical as this. The technology and the future technology that is part of the world building in the film. So at one point in the future, there was a space bridge. There was a link between Earth and then the moon, I think. And if you were gonna do a space bridge where that would be on the Earth, in order, based on the Earth's rotation and all other shit, it would be in Panama City. That's where you would have it.
Yeah,
so
that's
that's why
it goes to the equator.
So that's why they have that that city set there, and because it's set there, you do have Latin influences in the architecture and the culture. But then, because of the story in the movie, there was a Great War, and people came from all over and kind of migrated there. You have a hodgepodge of cultural. Different cultures there in this one place, but the architecture mainly has strongest influence in Latin culture.
But if they put like a fake name on the director and they said, "Oh, this is directed by Alan Smithy," you would not be able to tell, "Oh yeah, no, this is actually a Rodriguez movie." Yeah,
for me, I wouldn't be able to tell. I mean, you don't see a lot of his signatures that you see in some of his more low budget, kind of grittier films like El Mariachi or Desperado, where he does like the editing styles that you see in his other movies.
But even like stuff like, the fourth Spy Kids film or...
No.
To me, it feels more like a and looks like a James Cameron film.
Yeah,
that's fascinating.
Yeah, you could definitely feel his touches.
I'm super curious.
Yeah, even that bar, and I mentioned this in my video review. That bar reminded me of the Titty Twister and From Dusk Till Dawn. Just the geography and the architecture and the layout of that bar, how you come down the steps, you have the bar to the left, and the way the tables are structured. Like watching it, I was like, wow, this looks and feels like the Titty Twister from Dusk Till Dawn. So I don't know if that was something that he consciously did or if that's something from the manga, but I noticed that watching it, that bar, Kansas, I thought it was called, was very reminiscent from Dusk Till Dawn. So it does feel like Rodriguez is trying to put some of his little touches in there, but he does a great job of directing the film, and I really, really enjoyed the film.
All right. Wife Dork, how was your week in Dork?
My week in Dork was great. I actually got around to watching Happy Death Day 1 in preparation of watching Happy Death Day 2, and I had my reservations with it being like a comedy horror movie that maybe it would go too much into the vomity yucky territory that I'm not so much into. But I ended up really loving the movie, and it got me super excited for Happy Death Day 2. So that was perfect. And then I reached out to my niece, going like, what are you into? How about you introduce me to something new? And she introduced me to this completely nutty 6-episode web series that actually ended in like 2016. It was created between 2000 and something to then.
You're not
another
Brian.
time.
You don't know.
Yeah, I've forgotten the years. I've literally just looked them up and then forgot them. 2011 to 2016. And the web series is called Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared. Has anybody heard of this before?
No.
Okay, so it's kind of like a twisted children's show. So it has like one blue-haired yellow guy who looks a lot like a Muppet. There's like a human mop that looks like he could be out of something like not the Teletubbies, but what are those things where it's just like one of them looks like a bumpy cactus and then...
Yo Gabba Gabba.
Yeah, that looks like something out of Yo Gabba Gabba. Then there's like a talking duck. But what happens is in these episodes is they try to tackle big subjects like through singing songs like about creativity and love. But because they're trying to explain it in children's song and the ideas are so enormous that it drives the puppets crazy, and it always spins off into this like crazy psychedelic psychological crazy madness.
Somebody
it
told me
is
about
so
this shit. Like,
menacing and so like I thought it was brilliant, but the fact that like my niece is like, I love this, and I'm like, this is just straight up weird. So like the first episode is the episode on creativity. And it starts with like, you know, this little notepad is like singing song about, you know, like be creative, just, you know, express whatever's on your imagination and whatever. But every time one of the characters would suggest something creative, they're like, no, that's not creative. You're not being creative. And so the things that they create becomes getting weirder and weirder until the point where like they're throwing glitter on an atomically correct heart and they're cutting into a pie and organs are falling out and stuff. It's so
I've seen this shit. Somebody just
weird.
introduced this to me like in the last couple of months.
Well, I highly suggest it. Like as a person who was raised on Sesame Street and children's shows like that, it really creeps out my inner child, but not in like a yucky cum puppet way. What was that movie?
What?
Whoa.
Meet the Feebles?
Not Meet the Feebles.
Oh shit.
Happy Time Murders?
Yeah, Happy Time Murders.
Oh, okay.
But like in like a, you know, what if we really tried to explain the concept of time to children? And like the one with time is like the singing clock, and it ends with like all of these fish are decaying, and then the puppets are like growing old and their eyeballs are popping out. And then the credits are scrolling over like blue fur and like just straight up maggots are crawling in and out of it. It is bizarre, but I feel like better for having seen it. It's so weird. It's 6 episodes. I'm so late on this tick. Probably everybody's already seen it except for the 3 dudes in this room, but maybe Darren did.
I'm trying to think that I could have sworn like it felt like somebody introduced me to that like the last 4 months. I've seen like 1 or 2 episodes.
The thing that it most reminded me of was that Don Hertzfeldt cartoon Rejected.
Yeah.
But this is weirder than that. Just straight up weirder. And in that, there's like a puffball like bleeding from the vagina. So it's just like, it's weirder than that. So, it's not her vagina. It's an anus. Is that better or worse? I can't think.
Well, no, Rejected has bleeding anus.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
My anus is bleeding.
Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared doesn't have any
It's bleeding.
bleeding bleeding and
I like to do the voice and look directly into Brian's eyes.
That should have been your quote.
Yeah.
Yeah. It should have been.
So I highly recommend it. It's British. It's weird. It's got puppets.
Yes.
So anyway, but that's not what I want to talk
What
about.
I've just learned is that Brian has not seen Rejected.
Yay! My spoon is too big.
I'm going to send him.
It's too, but it's another one where it leaves you feeling like kind of existential and unsettled.
Have you seen the World of Tomorrow yet? The Don Hertzfeldt mini.
We love those.
They were at Fantastic Fest. Was that at the Fantastic Fest you weren't at? Sad for you.
This past one.
Yeah.
This past was
two Fantastic Fest
okay.
back.
No.
Oh, you weren't there for that?
No.
That's so good. Anyway.
You know, goddamn.
Yeah, I know, right? I was like, okay, twist the knife, Brad. Twist the knife.
Well, Billy's not here.
Brad and I also started season 2 of Star Trek Discovery.
How's that?
Yeah.
So, how is that? Okay, I'm going to say I'm enjoying it. I'm still pro Star Trek Discovery.
Yeah. How many episodes is it in now? And for the season 2.
4 episodes.
We're 4 episodes in. And it feels like, like when you've used a roll of duct tape and you tore off the edge perfectly, but then the edge re-stuck to the duct tape, and then the next time you peel at the duct tape, you have to like really pick at it. Yeah. That's what watching season 2 of Star Trek Discovery feels like.
Jesus.
Because
that's stressful as fuck.
I know, but you know that eventually you will get that really satisfying solid piece of duct tape. But that picking sensation of, okay, so to me, Star Trek Discovery season 1 is hands down the best season 1 of any Star Trek series.
Agreed.
And it's pretty darn close to a perfect season of television.
Agreed.
I love it so much.
Same.
And there was, so most of it is following this character of Michael Burnham and how she tries to prevent Klingon war by committing treason. And so it follows her story of getting back into the good graces of Starfleet through Captain Lorca. And then there's also like the mirror universe. And then there's like the, they have the spore drive and the mycelial network and all of this cool stuff going on. And then by the end of the season, pretty much all of the loose ends are tied up. The Klingon war is over. They're no longer going to use the spore drive because since the war is over, it's now against the law because of spoilery reasons, eugenic reasons. And like, Michael Burnham has had and lost a love over, political, personal reasons. So all of these loose ends are tied up. That makes season 1 so satisfying. But then season 2, like, where do you pick the story up? We're now in a time of peace. So does Discovery go back to being like a full-time science ship?
There's a major cliffhanger at the end of season 1 where this picks up immediately. And for Star Trek fans, it's like, oh my God, what is this? Whoa.
Yeah. But like, I don't know. So to me, it just feels like they're kind of, the setup for another big, broad storyline is not quite coming together.
Well, they don't want to have a big, broad storyline like they did with season 1. They've had a changing of the guards with showrunners.
I think that's so
multiple times. So it does feel like there's a new hand steering the ship. And the episode so far, despite this idea of, there are 6 signals out there, we need to figure out what these 6 signals mean and how they're going to affect us. Besides that, it feels very episodic.
Yeah.
And in that way, it feels very traditional.
Yeah.
Which is disappointing.
And it also has elements that are tying it back to original series Trek. Sonequa Martin Green, Michael Burnham, her estranged brother is Spock, and Spock has had some kind of mental breakdown related to these signals, and so she's looking for her brother.
They've really played up this sibling relationship, which I feel like it's more complicated than just brother and sister. And in the first season, you felt how awkward this tangential familial connection was. And now in season 2, it's just like, yeah, he was my bro. Like,
It's kind of strange. Anson Mount is now playing Captain Pike, but Captain Pike is, they're trying to make this kind of quirky character out of him, but sometimes it feels off.
Yeah, I don't know. They're dealing a lot with religion right now, which is...
There was one particular episode that was like about like religion.
Well, there's a very specific episode about religion, but with his character, they've brought in a lot of faith.
He is a big believer in like destiny and faith, and we're all here for a reason.
Yeah,
which they try to play off of, Michael Burnham is a science officer. She's trying to find reason, like outside of,
And I think that plot's coming back.
Yeah.
They have not let go of that yet. So I don't know. It feels just slightly off from what the first season was. I'm sure some fans are really enjoying how they're perceived to have correcting things from the first Discovery season.
I'm still enjoying it. I
am too.
Characters.
I am too. It's just, I don't want to get too much into other spoilers because it's still streaming on CBS All Access and not a lot of people have it. But there have been some corrections to character traits that have really bothered me.
I am not happy. So my favorite character is Saru, played by Doug Jones. When we were originally talking about season 1, I was talking about how Saru is he's the bottom of the food chain on his planet. So his superpower has been his fear and his anxiety and his ability to sense danger because of the idea that his
biology he has something in his biology that gives him trigger warnings, like a spider sense.
Yeah, so he knows what's the opposite. He has prey sense. He is prey where he comes from. So I love that element of his character. And then, because I identified with it as a person with an anxiety disorder. Like, I'm fearful all of the time, and yet my fear has created this person that I am. That's so charming and has so much personality. But, so I really bonded with that character. Then they did the short treks, and we got to visit Saru's planet that he can never go back to because they are considered like a
pre-warp community, so it's subject to Prime Directive, so they can't go there because they're going to see all of this technology and it's going to mess with their evolution or whatever. So he can't go back. So we get to see his kind of origin story, and I wasn't satisfied by it. So I'm just like, well, to me, this short trek is not canon. I don't believe it. Which I feel like I can do as a fan.
Of course.
I get to decide what's canon to me. But then, like, the direction his character has taken in these first 4 episodes, I'm really disappointed.
Is it betraying who they established him to be in the first season?
I think no. It's like a marked change. Like something about him is
altered
significantly, and
that
now
destroys the metaphor that Lisa connected to.
Yeah. So now that bond is like now broken, and I want to just talk to Doug Jones and go like, why?
But
I know he's not responsible.
That being
he's not
said,
the real
Lisa,
Saru.
in breaking that change of that character, character trait, and evolving that character trait, they have opened a storyline that could be pretty darn interesting. And I will say,
that's true.
As much as I was disappointed by the pilot, or not the pilot, but the premiere episode and the second episode, the third and the fourth introduced some ideas that I'm back on board. My curiosity is piqued. I'm curious to see where this season's going. It's more for me. It's
you don't feel that like through line. Like it kind of feels like you're not really going anywhere.
Season 1, I had such energy and such charge in meeting all these characters and defining all these new characters and meeting all these new actors. That has drifted a little bit, and my excitement is more, well, you've built this thing that I love. Oh, don't break it, which is a terrible fanboy response, and I apologize.
I do like the direction that Ash Tyler's character is going in.
I like all the stuff going on in Klingon land.
I think that's cool. I like the introduction. There's like a Starfleet MI6 kind of.
Yeah, Section 31. That's
Section
from
31?
That's from Deep Space Nine and Enterprise. That's been there before.
Oh, I forgot about it, I guess. But so I am enjoying it, but like I'm hesitant to.
We're not in love.
not in love, which is tough.
I do like watching it on CBS All Access, where they can push the limits of what we've seen in Star Trek in the past. So there are some scenes of violence in season 2 that really blew my mind.
So fun.
There's a severed baby head, guys.
Hell yes, there is.
A severed baby head.
Yeah.
So
I also, of course, I love the introduction of Tig Notaro's character, Jet
I like
Reno.
her. I like her a lot.
And I think she's a great foil to Stamets.
Yeah, and I think Stamets
Tilly.
is really interesting right now. And this past episode, they just did something major with his character, and I'm glad to see that change.
Yeah, same here.
So yeah, I don't know. I'm in.
I'm still in.
I'm still in.
And has the production stayed at the same level of quality?
Yeah.
Okay.
Quality-wise, it
gorgeous.
looks great.
Yeah.
I love the sets. I love the alien makeup, and they've introduced more non-human characters onto the bridge. And the bridge characters that were all there, that were kind of silent in the first season, are now starting to get some speaking lines, which is nice.
I hope that we get more interconnectivity between different characters on the bridge, because for the main characters in particular, everybody seems to be super close and super tight with Michael Burnham, and we have a friendship between Tilly and Stamets. But other than that, everybody's Michael Burnham seems to be the go-to gal for all emotional support. So we have scene after scene of Sonequa Martin Green,
who's great,
who's amazing, giving emotional support to another character, and having these super intimate scenes with Saru at a time of crisis. Tilly, she's lacking self-confidence. So, and then Anson Mount, that Captain Pike. Now that relationship, I would like to see more relationships that don't necessarily include Michael Burnham. She seems to be like the cast seems to be like a wagon wheel with Michael Burnham in the middle.
Okay.
So, but I still have the faith.
It's still, I'm still enjoying it.
How many episodes for this season?
I think it's
15
like
was the
15.
first
so
season.
you're like only a third way, right?
And we waited like a full year. Like the last season 1 ended in February of last year. So we've been waiting a long time for the second season.
And so anticipation, it's a hell of a thing.
Yeah.
And so with CBS Access, they don't do like Netflix and put like
No,
multiple episodes out.
it's weekly, and I like it that way. I like it that way.
Okay.
I'm a traditionalist.
I do too, and I like the fact like when Brad and I were away, we knew that when we'd come back, we'd have multiple episodes to watch, and now like we get to wait, till the next Sunday, and then we get a new episode.
It's actually, I think, Thursdays now.
Oh, whatever.
They changed it on us.
Boo! I hate change. I'm a fanboy. Flip laptop.
I'm sorry.
Kick the microphone.
I like The Last Jedi.
I'm doing a lot of physical comedy
Yeah,
on this
don't
podcast.
don't follow The Last Jedi, boys.
All right, that's all you got for your weekend, Dork?
I like The Last Jedi. We can talk about
We
that
love
again.
The Last
Love
Jedi.
The Last Jedi.
Okay, no, I guess that's it for my weekend dork. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you. B, how was your week in D?
Also great.
Yeah.
This was a significant one for the ItModcast podcast because over at the Alamo Winchester on Wednesday, they had the Lost Weekend 11 announcement.
Ooh, I would like to go to that.
Yes. So, as you may or may not know, Lost Weekend is not an annual celebration, but a biannual. That's the term.
If you shop as Victoria's Secret, you really get to know what biannual means.
Well, I haven't started shopping there just yet.
They don't carry my
So,
size.
Lost Weekend 11 is the spring film festival that occurs every year at the Alamo Drafthouse Winchester.
Yep.
This year, it's running from March 21st to March 24th.
Yep.
It's the largest Lost Weekend that they have programmed there. It's almost, the first, first 7 Lost Weekends, first 8 Lost Weekends all occurred in one theater.
Mm-hmm.
You just found a seat, you hunkered down, and you didn't have to move.
Yeah,
true that.
Then they started to introduce this idea of B-sides and a second theater that's going to show films every, to give you some options, give you a taste of a film festival experience. Well, this year, there's almost 2 screens running the entire festival.
Yeah.
So there's lots of B-sides.
So you're not going to be able to see everything?
It's impossible to see everything. I think there are, I want to say 36 movies in total, and the most you could see is 26.
So how do they do the, if you saw every movie at the festival, you get a hat or a medal?
Well, like they did last year, you only need to see 20 movies to be considered, a Lost Weekender winner.
Okay, gotcha.
So yes. So 26 is the total, but you only need 20, and you can get, last Lost Weekend, you got a sparkly hat. The weekend before that, you got a cape.
You also get first hack at getting tickets for the next one, right? And you get to sample the menu first and all of that stuff.
And so that's what we did this past Wednesday. It was a menu sampling and the trailer reveal. And, they also had Founders there, so they were giving away free beer. I'm there.
Nice.
God bless Katie at Founders, because she's a big fan and supporter of the It Modcast podcast.
Hi, Katie.
And she keeps us
liquored up, beard up,
yeah,
hoppy.
So that's just nice. So thank you, Katie. We appreciate that. And I love Founders. The Devil's Backbone used to sponsor Lost Weekend. Devil's Backbone's solid. I'm a fan of Devil's Backbone. Founders, though, oh yeah, that's the Barrel Runner. That's good stuff. Okay, enough with Beercast. So 26 possible films you can watch this festival. You're gonna have to choose wisely.
Yeah. Choose your own adventure.
Yes.
Other references.
Yes. We are sponsoring a film yet again this year, and
is it a cool film?
It's a really cool film.
Is it the coolest film possibly at the festival?
It's definitely the coolest film possibly at the festival.
Do we owe Andy Geierson forever and always?
Yes. Especially since there was some doubt as if this film was going to play at the festival.
Yeah.
But how dare we ever doubt Andy Geierson?
Yeah.
We are sponsoring Jordan Peele's Us.
Yep. That's us. We're the sponsors of us.
Yeah.
Us are the sponsors of us.
That's incredibly cool. We're very excited about that, obviously. When they did the trailer reveal, and the way the Alamo Winchester does trailer reveals for the festival, you don't know what movies you're seeing until you go to this event and they roll out the trailers. So as you're watching and people are getting excited, this weird French soccer film trailer comes up and you're like, I don't know what that's going to be, but I'm going to watch it. So that's neat. But then following that weird soccer French film is a trailer for Jordan Peele's Us. And like the moment, that car comes into frame, the whole audience was like, yeah, we're going to see Us. Everyone's anticipating this movie. So that's extremely exciting. And this year, Lost Weekend 11, though, is an incredibly eclectic year. He brings a lot of variety. But, some years you have a little more of a stronger comedy tone or a little more foreign film tone or a horror tone. He's running the gamut, with 36 films. Every genre is being represented. Every tier of budget is being represented.
Are there any action films?
There are action films. Actually, Ip Man 4 is going to be there. That's the first action film that popped into my head. Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah, Michelle Yeoh and Dave Bautista are joining the Ip Man franchise.
What? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's there. I don't want to go through every film because we're going to have a special Lost Weekend preview episode.
Yeah.
Oh, One Cut of the Dead, one of our favorite films from last year, is going to be there. Olivia Wilde is in a film called A Vigilante that I'm really curious about.
I saw the trailer for that prior to this announcement. It looks interesting. Low budget, but I like what I saw.
Vigilante, like she's like
yeah. The Dog Man, one of my favorites from Fantastic Fest, that's playing there this year.
I saw Wedding Guest. That's with Dev Patel, because I saw the trailer for that too, which looks kind of interesting. And the movie I saw at Fantastic Fest, Slut in a Good Way, is playing there.
That's right. Yeah,
I didn't get to see that one.
Yeah, I'm gonna check that out again because I really enjoyed that film.
The A24 horror film I just saw at Sundance, The Hole in the Ground, is there. It's got a decent first half. But then I think besides Us coming, the next film that really got people excited was The Public, which is written and directed by Emilio Estevez. And people are excited because Emilio Estevez is coming to the festival.
That's going to be dope.
Yeah, so that's really exciting. And, he's going to come on to the In the Mouth of Dorcas podcast.
That's going to be doper.
Yeah.
Emilio.
That's really, really, really cool.
I'm exclusively going to ask Mighty Duck questions.
Don't do that, Lisa.
Nope, I've already decided.
No,
I'm exclusively. I'm taking the Young Guns questions.
And we're also getting the movie Starfish, which was another Fantastic Fest hit. And the director of that, A.T. White, will also be in attendance and will also be on our podcast.
That's when I didn't get to see it. Fantastic.
Same.
So I'm
I
glad.
missed it. So lots and lots of interesting movies.
A lot of advanced screenings.
It's 26 advanced screenings of the 36.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's a lot. It's a lot. So lots to be excited about. And we have to do a shout out to our friends Cuddles and Rage.
Yeah.
They did the logo for Lost Weekend 11, inspired by This Is Spinal Tap. It's a little amp and all the knobs are turned to 11.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty darn cute and cool. So I don't know, that's what I'm most excited about right now. They did a screening of the documentary Whitney about Whitney Houston, and it's a very powerful documentary. It's a very sad documentary, and anybody who knows the narrative of Whitney Houston knows that it goes into some dark and depressing places, and it's a hard watch. It's especially, I would say, for fans of Whitney Houston, who should be all of us. Yeah. It's a hard thing to watch. The documentary has tremendous access to the family members, and they are willing to say everything, it seems. And I just think, well, if I was Whitney Houston, maybe like not share that element. Yeah. It's a lot's being put out there. And sometimes you got to wonder when you see a documentary like this or the Amy Winehouse documentary, or whether we're watching the Ted Bundy tapes or some of these true crime films, what is the benefit of experiencing this story of this person, this tragic, horrible story? What do I get as a consumer of pop culture? And I struggle with that. And I struggled with that with Whitney. It was very compelling, but is that invasion of privacy? Should I have access to that stuff?
Right.
I don't know. Should I just let them have their life? So I don't know. It was a tough watch.
Yeah.
But going back to Lost Weekend 11, it sold out before the tickets even went online. So people just showed up at that theater.
Oh shit!
Just to buy tickets and then left.
That's never happened before.
They weren't watching movies, and the B-sides are still there, so you can buy the secondary track. But the main event pass is gone, and it was gone before they went online.
So if it's a main event, can you go back and forth between A and B?
You can, yes, yeah.
Okay.
And I wonder how can they guarantee that? But what we know from past experiences that not everyone shows up to Lost Weekend events, and you can always get into a screening because
there's always been open seats.
Yeah, always been open.
People
seats.
are going to work and living their lives, and
it's $35 for 26 possible movies.
That's like a little over $1 a movie.
Yeah, there's no better deal.
Yeah,
and that is because of awesome sponsors like us.
Yeah.
And Cuddles of Rage. Yeah. And, founders.
Who did the logo this year? It's so flippin' cute.
I just said that.
Oh, sorry. I stopped listening for a second.
I knew it. I knew that Lisa checks out when I talk.
Well, that's all you got for your weekend.
Yeah.
David Diggs is going to be at the 6th tonight. I just discovered it on Facebook,
I had to tell
Brian.
That's what you're doing?
So Brian's on Facebook too, that's all I know.
Brian is very much on Facebook.
Man, this is what I hate. You guys are doing other things.
No.
Multitasking.
I heard just because you said
you're not multitasking. You straight up checked out on the logo conversation.
They turned the dial up to 11.
Oh, Brian was paying attention. You need to learn how to listen like Brian, Lisa.
I'm sorry.
This motherfucker. All right, that's all you got for your weekend.
Yeah. I also watched 30 movies, but that's fine. I don't need to talk about Lego Movie 2. It's pretty good. Cold Pursuit, not so good. They Shall Grow Old, pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. For my weekend dork, Brian and I have we're continuing our rewatch of Game of Thrones, and we have recap videos for each episode. We're currently on season 4 now. We actually started season 4 last night.
Yeah.
And those episodes are available on our YouTube channel if you are interested. And hopefully we'll be able to get this done prior to the premiere of season 8 in April.
You better kick it up a notch, guys.
Yeah,
I know.
yeah.
We've been actually getting through, and it's been fun rewatching. It's almost like this is the first time I think I've rewatched a television series. I don't care like how good it's been. Like Breaking Bad's one of my favorite TV shows of all time, but like when that ended, like I for whatever reason had no desire to go back and rewatch it, or I just didn't. And yeah, Game of Thrones this is the first time I've actually done that, and it's almost like. It's a totally different experience than watching it the first time because, you know, having gone through 7 seasons with characters, when you go back and to the earlier seasons, you now have new information and revelations that will come later that you can take into account when you hear and see certain scenes earlier in the series that initially, you know, lines of dialogue meant nothing to you at that point. But now knowing where this character who spoke this line of dialogue is going to go, or events that happen in the future, how they relate to this line of dialogue, it's almost like, oh wow, I know what that means now. It means something. So, you know, the show, a lot of the show now has taken new meaning because of, you know, later seasons and stuff like that. So that's been very cool. Yeah. But I want to talk about a movie that I saw actually this morning before I went to see Happy Death Day. It's called Tyrel. It's an independent film. It's directed by Sebastian Silva. It stars damn, I forgot his name. Jason Mitchell from Straight Outta Compton. He's also in Kong. And I saw this trailer last year, and talk around this independent film. It was being compared, and after having seen the film, I would say unfairly, it was touted as 2018's Get Out. And I'm going to read the synopsis from IMDb. It says, Tyler, a sole black man, attends an otherwise all-white weekend of drunken bro debauchery on a birthday trip to a cabin in the Catskills.
Ooh, all of that sounds like a bad idea.
Right. And in addition to Jason Mitchell, it also stars Caleb Landry Jones, and he's become one of my favorite like character actors.
That's why someone said Get Out. They're like, oh, that guy's in Get Out.
Yeah. And Michael Cera is in it, and he's weird, but he's great in the film. So when I saw the trailer, I can see where it would evoke the comparison of Get Out, and that you have a black man who is seemingly out of his comfort zone or out of his element. And so when I watched the trailer, I felt like, oh, okay, this is going to be about this guy who's going to be with this black guy who's going to be surrounded by these white people that he's unfamiliar with, and you know he's going to have to deal with some uncomfortable racism and a bunch of other shit. But that's really not what the movie is, and there is some of that. There is the movie really feels like it's a look at the bro subculture and that mindset, and how, because ultimately like the guys in the film, they aren't malicious. They're not alienating him. They're not looking at him in a racist context or treating him in that way. They're just being themselves around this guy who just culturally, he comes from a different place, and this is foreign to him. Their behavior, whether it be the games that they play, and or you know just how they hang out together. You know, he's from New York. The character of Tyler's from New York, and you know, being someone from the city, New York City, in his neighborhood, when he hangs out with his friends, it's a totally different vibe. The way that they talk, the way that they interact, the things that they decide to do just to waste time or you know kick it or whatever, it's totally different for him. And so there's like a culture shock of sorts for him, and they don't see it, and they don't see how it's affecting him, and he doesn't feel comfortable enough to say it and to tell them about it. So there's just this awkwardness of how these two different types of people from two different backgrounds and in places are how like what that's like being in being in that particular situation. And I gotta say, like, Jason Mitchell, he is a phenomenal actor first and foremost. For him to be able to accurately portray this particular feeling, because I myself, like, I've been in a situation where, like, I've been the only person of color in the room, right? And like, I know what that's like. And the way Jason Mitchell, or not even just him, but the way the director Sebastian Silva, who also wrote the film, the way he writes that character, and so there's a scene where the first night that they get there, so it's Caleb Landry Jones's birthday, so they're coming there to celebrate his birthday, and Tyler is the plus one, and so his Tyler's best friend brings him along and introduces him to the rest of the guys, and so they're welcoming to Tyler. They're not, oh, who is this guy or whatever. They're all right. Come on, you're gonna party with us, bro. And that night, the first night, they're going wild. They're not holding back. They're playing all kind of games and stuff and drinking games. And like, one of the first scenarios that makes Tyler feel uncomfortable is that they're passing around this hat. And in this hat, there's these little pieces of paper that have something written on them, and they're folded up. So you pass around a hat, you pick something out of a hat, and you have to say this. There's a phrase that they're saying, and it's written on the phrase isn't written on every piece of paper, but what's written on the piece of paper is an accent in which you have to say this phrase.
Oh, no.
So you might reach your hand in the hat and pull out a piece of paper, and it might say British. So you have to say this phrase in a British accent, right? So I want to say, if not each person at the party, there was one. I think there was more than one person at the party got a chance to write down what type of accent or voice you have to say this phrase in. So one is the English accent, another one is an Indian accent, and then another character pulls out a black woman accent, a Southern black woman accent. And so initially, even before they even get to that one, you can see how Tyler feels uncomfortable by this, because the other guys, they're just having fun. They'll pick the paper out and they'll read the phrase in their best impression of that accent. And then it comes to the one guy who pulls the black, the black lady accent. And so he says it in a normal voice. And as a matter of fact, the guy who pulls it is he's a gay man, right? And he feels uncomfortable. So when he pulls it, he says it in a regular accent, and they're like, "What?" And you have to guess. That's the thing. You have to guess what the accent is based on how the person performs it. So they're like, everyone's like, "An American accent?" And the guy was like, "No, I'm not. I can't do this. I'm not saying this." And they're like, "What? Let me see. What is it?" And then they go, "Oh, okay. Oh, it's just a game. Just play it." And then Tyler, you can see like he's kind of uncomfortable, but he's like, "You know what? It's harmless. Just go ahead and do it. Like, whatever. No big deal." And the guy is afraid to do it. He's like, I'm not with this game. I don't feel comfortable enough. And then like, well, you do it, Tyler. Come, just show him how it's done. And he's like, nah, I don't want to play the game. I'm good, man. And like, come on, Tyler, show him how it's done. And he does it, right? And after he does it, they're like, yeah, you could. All right, that's how you do it. That's how you do it. And they pass the hat around to the next person, and you could see how he really wasn't comfortable with that, right? And so it gets to a point where he's like, all right, he fakes like he's tired, because he wants to go in the room and just be separate and just go to sleep. So he fakes like he's tired, and he goes into another room, and the other guy, the guy's like, "Oh, where you going?" "Oh, I'm good. I had too much to drink, and I'm just gonna go to sleep." So when he's getting ready for bed, and you see him like brushing his hair, right, with a small brush. And so for black men, like a popular hairstyle for black men is waves. And if you have the right type of hair, you have a short brush, and every night before you go to bed, you brush your waves, and you put a little grease on your head, and you put a do-rag on. That's the purpose of a do-rag. Is if you're trying to get waves, or you're trying to maintain waves, you put the grease on your head after you brush it, put the do-rag on so you go to sleep, so you don't mess up the waves. And so the grease takes to your hair and the texture, and you can keep your waves. So he's brushing his hair, he puts the grease on his hair, and he's about to put his do-rag on, and he decides not to put it on. He puts it back in his bag. And he doesn't do it because he feels uncomfortable with doing that there, because he doesn't want to perpetuate a stereotype, right? And it's not spoken, and it's no dialogue in that scene, but just that act of him doing it and the way that he does it, like with his body language, where he feels he's about to do it, and you can tell it clicks with him that this is just a safe bet because of just how the night has been going so far and how he just doesn't feel comfortable. And like for me, like that scene was like a gut punch because granted, I don't have to do that. I don't have ways. But I've been in a situation where I've had to not, we talked about it before, like the whole code switching thing where you feel like you can't be yourself around these people because of a perception that you're afraid is going to be put on you, right? And so I'm thinking so from the opening of the movie, when he first gets to this rural area, there's this sense of dreads, and I can see how the comparison to Get Out comes into play in that regard too, because the whole time I'm like, man, this shit doesn't feel like it's going to end well. Like it feels like I'm just waiting for like an incident to happen. But interestingly enough, what Sebastian Silva does with this film, it's not that type of film. It's not saying that, you know, just because this black guy is the only black guy around these white dudes doesn't mean that shit's going to go south because of a racial tension or anything like that. It's just about how, you know, someone from a different culture or a different background, how they can feel out of place in another cultural element, but not based on anything these particular guys are saying or doing, but just the state of our society, period, and our history with it. And it's more of an observation. Like the movie doesn't have like a climax where something happens and, you know, he has to fight his way out of it or escape or whatever. It doesn't have like a physical climax. If anything, it's more of an emotional climax, and it's not what you think it's going to be. And I found that really surprising. I went through IMDb to look up names for the cast and crew afterwards and stuff like that. And I scrolled down and I saw people's reviews of it. And a lot of people were talking about the comparisons to Get Out. But then there were some people who were saying like, yo, I saw this movie, I watched this movie, and it was a waste of time. When it went off, I was like, what's the point? And more than anything, like that kind of disturbed me because
the ignorance.
Yeah, like because granted, maybe they were expecting the social commentary, the same social commentary that Get Out was talking about, and because this movie wasn't speaking to the same things, they were dismissive of it. But it still if anything, it's you know, for me, like a large part of it was the toxic masculinity in that bro-y culture and how, you know, that same sentiment of I don't see what this movie was about, I don't get it, really falls in line with the people in that room with Tyler. And like they would say things, whether it be about, you know, being insensitive to regarding their stance on religion or politics or any other thing, but not really even considering, you know, this person that's in the room with you might be a Christian, might follow this particular political stance, or might feel a certain way about, you know, imitating another culture's voice or whatever. Like not even being oblivious to it, and not really being malicious in their intent, but just being ignorant of it. You know what I'm saying? And like, I mean, the movie is speaking on what you're doing right now, right? And you're totally missing it. And so I don't know. I felt like it's a hard watch, really, because you feel Tyler's uncomfortability and his anxiety, and just not being used to this, you know, these particular type of people. But at the end of the day, like it ultimately surprised me in that, you know, I don't know. I'm not going to spoil the ending, but I will say like it surprised me in how it ended, and I felt like, wow, this is a breath of fresh air. So for, you know, in this day and age where we have a lot of movies that are speaking on a social commentary about present society, and in this film, this is the Sebastian Silva says that he made this film even though I think he's Chilean, if I'm not mistaken. Even though he said he made this movie for Americans, and it's about like there's a news program earlier in the film. You can hear it in the background where they're talking about the presidential election. Like Trump is president at this point. Michael Cera, when he shows up, he's like the weird, crazy, like he's a rich kid that just came out to celebrate the birthday, and he when he arrives, he's got this sequence mask on. It's really crazy. So he brings this piñata for them, and it's a piñata of like Donald Trump, and they're gonna they hate Donald Trump. Fuck that guy. So we're going to take our frustrations out on this Donald Trump pinata. So it's very current, but it shows that not every. I don't know. You can't judge a book by its cover, because I did that. Like when he gets there, I'm thinking when Caleb Landry Jones pops out the back of the pickup truck and he's all wild and everything like that, and he's getting mad because Tyler doesn't remember meeting him previously when actually he never met Tyler before. It was another black guy that he mistook him for. I'm thinking, oh shit, this is gonna be the guy that's gonna have something go bad, and so I prejudged him. I prejudged him on the merits of his behavior there, but ultimately the movie shows that some person might have a particular type of behavior in one scenario or one setting, but that is not all that they are, right? And I don't know. I guess I kind of appreciated that. But I won't lie. Like, it's a very intense and uncomfortable watch for the first 2/3 of that. Well, actually, through the whole movie until the next morning, the last morning of that film. It's really uncomfortable. But I think it goes a long way to make you connect with how Tyler is feeling in the film. So I don't know. I really dug it though. I highly recommend you check that movie out. Sebastian Silva apparently has done some other films. I'm going to check them out to see if, they are anything like, not at least thematically, but as far as quality-wise, if they're anything like this film, Tyrel. But, yeah. Next, when we come back from the break, our first review cast in what seems like forever.
Since last year. No, we did a Glass.
Glass, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So
this will be different.
Our first review cast since Glass. We're going to be looking at Happy Death Day to You. So yeah, that's going to be our review when we come back from the break. Stay tuned.
Hey, this is Liz from People I Think Are Cool, a bi-weekly podcast where I interview my favorite creatives from across the globe. If you're looking for a dose of creative inspiration, then go to peopleithinkarecool.com or subscribe to People I Think Are Cool on iTunes and Stitcher.
You like film, from cult to classic, from blockbuster to B-movies. And there just isn't that one place with all the fan fervor and passion that's covering the kind of mad, diverse brilliance that you love.
Well, that's where you're wrong.
AfterMovieDiner.com is that fan-built movie nirvana just for you, featuring the sweet, sweet writings of the wife dork herself. AfterMovieDiner.com. Go there. Be the best you can be.
Welcome back to the In the Mouth of Dorkness podcast. It is time for our review cast for Happy Death Day 2. Welcome back to the In the Mouth of Dorkness podcast. It is time for our review cast for Happy Death Day 2.
Full spoilers for Happy Death Day 2.
Yeah, we're going to spoil this movie. If you haven't seen it, go see it. Make sure you've seen the first one first. If you haven't seen the trailer for the second one, don't watch it because it spoils the first one. That just blows my mind about the marketing for the second film. I'm still pissed off about that. But anyway, go see the first one, then watch the second one, then come back and listen to our review.
Like I did.
Yay!
Except for I'm recording our review.
Yep.
And I'm gonna listen this entire time.
That's good.
Not gonna space out.
Brian, are you gonna close Facebook for a moment?
Of course.
Close your laptop.
Yeah,
I'm good, man. I got my IMDb up right here, so I can follow
So
along.
here's the thing. Happy Death Day 1. I enjoyed it. I had a real good time at the movies with the first movie. It's a ton of fun. Blumhouse does it again. It's a low budget PG-13 horror film that takes a gimmick from another movie, the Groundhog Day thing, which a lot of people are doing now. I don't know if anybody's watched Russian Doll on Netflix.
Yeah. Or Coco Di Coco Da.
Coco Di Coco Da, yeah. Or Edge of Tomorrow.
Or 3 Foot Ball and Chain.
Yeah. So like everyone's doing Groundhog Day.
And
right?
I'll never grow tired of it.
So, okay, let's take that gimmick. Let's apply it to the slasher film. Let's have some fun. And Happy Death Day, lot of fun.
Nails it, I think.
I think Jessica Roth is a big reason why Happy Death Day 1 works so well.
Absolutely.
She's fantastic in that role. I love seeing her go through the many Bill Murray phases of a Groundhog Day scenario. I could not possibly imagine a sequel to this movie. I knew it did well. So if they were going to do a sequel, it would be this concept with a new set of characters.
Right.
But then you see the trailer for Happy Death Day to You, and they throw her back into this scenario, expand the scenario. Now not only do I like Happy Death Day 1, I love the combo.
Mm-hmm.
I have tremendous respect for how wild and inventive they are getting with this idea.
So prior to us right before the second one came out, Lisa, both you and Brian had not seen the first one. You had been hearing myself and Mouth Dork sing praises to the high heavens about that film. I'm just curious, like, I know you said you loved it, but were you expecting to? Or did it take you by surprise how much you enjoyed it? Or were you like, oh man, I hope it lives up to how much Darren's been hyping it up? Because he's been, especially Brian, I've been known to overhype shit.
You guys have exquisite taste, and when you recommend something, I always take that to heart.
Thank you.
But there are elements of the slasher film that don't resonate with me, and I did have reservations on that front, especially the comedy horror movie. For some reason, I didn't know going into it that it was a PG-13 slasher film. It didn't really register with me.
That, yeah.
But like, it's always such a wonderful surprise to find something that really is truly so fun, and I think has a lot of heart. It's not like it's not like a slaps. Well, I mean, there is slapstick elements to it, but it is not like they're not doing sketch acting. Like, look at me being goofy. I think everybody is fully invested in the character, and it is the situation that's comical, and they extrapolate comedy from that.
And by the end of the first movie, when Tree falls for Carter, because
I love that couple.
She has been reliving this scenario with him, being the swell guy that he is. Mm-hmm. When she genuinely falls for him, you fall for him, and you fall for her through her love of him. Their chemistry is infectious.
She has a great character arc from the type of person she is at the beginning of that film to who she is at the end of this film, and ultimately starting into Happy Death Day to You.
And what's so exciting about the sequel is that it starts with Carter and Tree as a couple, at least from her point of view.
Yeah, where we left off.
And then
the last
it
movie.
manages to find ways to play with that expectation and your excitement for them being a couple.
Yeah.
And I think the decision crux at the climax of the movie is a real one.
Yeah.
Like, I thought that it really had emotional significance for the character. And
of this movie, of the sequel?
Of the sequel. I thought that it played well with what she had learned in the first movie. And it was so nice to not see her revert to her witchy ways.
The part one attitude.
Yeah, the sorority Barbie doll B word.
Well, so let's talk about how this film
But what did
starts.
Brian think of it?
Yes. Oh, I absolutely loved it.
Sorry, Brad.
I like to jump ahead.
No worries. Same as Lisa. I didn't see the film, and I had the experience of being able to watch this kind of back to back. I saw it on the first one, VOD streaming on Tuesday, and went Wednesday to go watch the second one. And the way the film starts out, with it kind of picking up right where the first one left off, was such an experience to be able to watch it as one complete kind of story arc and character arc for the character of Tree. And like you were saying, like the emotional significance of Tree's character, especially in the second movie, really hit me in such an impactful way. Kind of seeing my own experiences through the character of Tree, but just the way how that movie plays with genre, but also it kind of changes the expectations and the relationships of the character. It kind of rewrites a little bit of the first movie without it feeling like you were cheated from the events that happened in the first movie. The way that it's able to expand the friendship that she has with Lori. Spoiler alert for the first film that she's the killer in the first film.
Did you know that, Lisa? Because you're a smart motherfucker. So when you were watching it, in the first one, did you figure out who the killer was?
I mean, I did the usual Lisa thing of naming every character as the killer, and then I'm always right. I don't think think I did.
Well, you did react to the cupcake.
Oh, yeah.
In the first film, and you knew that there was something wrong with that cupcake.
Well, because she wasn't eating it, and as a baker, and Brian knows. I notice when you don't eat baked things.
Yeah. So, I liked all that stuff. How it rewrote that first movie, but it does it in a way to expand those character relationships, and I thought it was just phenomenal the way they were able to do that.
I did finish the movie, even knowing that there's a second movie that I'm gonna watch in the next couple of days. I go like, well, why would you do a sequel of this movie? This movie is so compact and contained, and I'm like, you don't like. I don't need a Groundhog's Day 2. I don't need a Happy Death Day 2.
That was the great thing about it, because I had the same feeling going into it that, okay, doing a sequel for a movie that's kind of similar to Groundhog's Day it can make it feel really repetitive and a little bit boring if you were to kind of repeat the same
Yeah, they
beats.
definitely set the bar so high for themselves.
Yeah, but the fact, I think they were able to change the genre from horror comedy to sci-fi comedy, and
they do
loosely sci-fi. I mean, there's
loose sci-fi.
But I mean, they lean way more into the comedy in the second film.
They do.
To me, it feels like a jump from Alien to Aliens. Not to say that Happy Death Day is as good as Alien, or that Happy Death Day to You is as good as Aliens, but that shock and surprise, that genre shift that you're talking about, I think does occur.
Yeah, and it keeps it fresh, and that's what made the second one so exciting. That I felt like they had to do that, to make it feel fresh, because if not, I just think it would have been just repeating the same beats.
It is weird how the second film starts off with the character of Ryan, played by Phil Vu, and now, it picks off with him in the car. We heard about how he slept in the car. And now we get to see him waking up in his car, stumbling out, bumping into a bunch of people. And immediately, because we're Happy Death Day, Groundhog's Day fans, we know that these people that he's bumping into, we're going to see them again in a different scenario. And he has the Groundhog Day effect in going up to the bedroom, finding Tree and Carter together. And then now there's a killer after him. His life resets. He's back in the car, goes through their motions again. And that's when we learn that there's a science experiment that him and his team have been working on.
Yeah, which caused the blackouts from the first film. Yeah.
Which ultimately creates the time loop.
And it also is not just a time loop, but it is splitting into dimensions. And then there's that amazing reveal at the beginning of Happy Death Day to You that the babyface killer is not the serial killer from the hospital, is not Ruby, the roommate, but it's actually Ryan from another dimension trying to kill this Ryan, because this Ryan is causing all the problems. And I loved that. That blew my mind. I was like, oh, is this what the film's going to be?
Yeah.
And then no, not really, because they have issues with setting off the device. And when that device sets off with everyone around it, it becomes Tree's story again, because she's bumped into another dimension, a fringe universe.
But then apparently her version of herself, I guess, presumably gets bumped back into her original dimension,
or goes to another dimension,
or some other one.
It's wheels within wheels.
There could be a dimension with two trees, but it's not the dimension we end up in.
Right.
Okay.
And I gotta say, when the babyface killer starts hacking away in the sequel, that second time, when we know it's not Ryan, the entire time I'm anticipating that it's Tree.
But it's clearly like a bigger person in the.
Yeah, if you use your logic brain like that, Lisa. I don't use a logic brain. I'm not Lisa. I'm Brad. I go for like, it's Tree stalking her.
Whenever it's a serial killer kind of like a whodunit kind of movie, I'm always checking for boobies. You
can hide boobies.
Yeah, you can hide boobies, but you can't hide boobies.
Yeah, you can hide boobies.
I think I can spy them.
Yeah.
Well, they hit him in the first one.
Anyway,
it
did not go where I thought it was going to go with Tree versus Tree action, which I thought would have been cool.
Yeah.
But Laurie only wore the mask one time. The other times it was the other guy, the murderer.
Right.
Toombs.
Toombs. Yeah. Okay. To me, it is a little weird that it's Ryan versus Ryan action, and then it shifts to Tree's story again. Like, just from a structure standpoint, that's a little odd.
Well, in hindsight, thinking about it, I agree. It can feel a little odd, but to me, it kind of makes sense in that if we're going to introduce the reasoning for, if we're going to give you an explanation of how the time loop or the split dimensions or the multiple dimensions came to be, if it's because of an experiment that he's working on, and he would be there when the explosion happens, he would be affected by it. So it's kind of
But that doesn't make any sense because, she wasn't anywhere near the machine when it was going off. So it can't have to do with anything with proximity to the machine.
Well, maybe not necessarily proximity, but he is the the head of that project, so he has something to do with it.
Well, they need to follow him to introduce that story,
right? Because he wasn't
Well, anybody, from a writing standpoint, anybody could have created this machine, but they chose it to be that guy because he's always there every morning.
Yeah, to tie it back.
That all makes sense. Right. And what I'm saying is that the oddity of it is it's Ryan's story at the beginning of this film for about 20 minutes. And then it reverts back to being Tree's story. Yeah. And I'm glad that's the case because Jessica Roth is way more interesting to follow as an audience member than Phil Vu as Ryan.
I would say that would probably be like if we're going to do the good, the bad, the ugly, that would be one of my bads is that, as far as maybe it was just his performance.
I second this. I anticipate what you're saying, and I second this.
Can you finish it for me?
He's not that great an actor.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wanted you to do
be
the bad guy.
I'm always the bad guy. I am the bad guy of the In the Mouth of Darkness podcast.
Bad dork.
But I thought he was great as kind of a recurring gag in the first movie, as being the guy who's being all broy after he thinks he his roommate tagged this drunk girl. Yeah. But then when he had to have more of a character arc, a little bit more nuance to his story, he just couldn't do it.
And really, my only issue was in that first 20 minutes, because the rest of the film, when he pops in and out, I was fine with his performance. But it goes back to what you mentioned a few minutes ago when you were saying with the first film, everyone else was they were committed. It's just the comedy was based on the situation of the circumstance.
But also his little friends from the science lab also had this kind of weird performance element that felt almost sitcom-y.
Yeah, it felt like a Disney XD show.
I think they are all fine for what type of film this is.
Capital F fine.
No,
they're fine. They're serviceable, but I don't think that they have the.
When compared to Tree and what's her boyfriend's name?
Carter.
Yeah, there's a noticeable difference.
I think Jessica Roth is a certain standout amongst the cast.
Yeah.
But I do think that Rachel Matthews as the sorority head.
Yeah, she's super funny.
But she is also acting in that Disney XD style. I think she's better than Phil Vu or Suraj Sharma or Sarah Yarkin. Yeah. But I think all of them they work within this film. I have no problem with their acting style. I'm more concerned with the weird, clunky opening and the transition from Ryan's story back to Jessica's story.
Well, I guess we'll talk a little bit about some of the issues. Mine is those two student scientists and the dean, and
the dean is really goofy.
Yeah, like I said, and it's really more so the third act of the film because the pacing of the movie, you can feel the length of it because they have these start and stops, these false starts in the movie when she's trying to get sent back to her or whether she's going to stay or not. And then once we kind of wrap up some of the dramatic elements of the story with her saying goodbye to her mother and talking to Carter, we have the moment where she's going to go back, and then the dean comes in and unplugs the thing, and then they take the science thing to his office.
The science thing, it's the perfect definition.
Sissy to his office. And I'm like, okay, that's that was the ending of your movie right there. But it's like now we
they have like
to
a
go,
little heist.
Yeah, so now we have to
moment.
go to this side adventure that's only used for comedic value, which doesn't. I mean, on rewatch, it is kind of funny, especially with Danielle.
Yeah, I think she's amazing in that scene
Yeah.
playing the French blind
woman,
girl.
Yeah, but it just felt like, okay, we had this movie wrapped up, but it's like, wait, let's have this other 15 minutes of this side adventure of doing all this other stuff, and it kind of threw the movie off for me a little bit.
Yeah, the film is not perfect by any means. Neither was the first movie. I think both have some structure issues, plotting issues, acting issues, but overall, it's a delight.
It's a delight. Yeah.
I appreciate just how the second movie, like you said, it what expands and enhances the first film, but also it grows into its own thing. And by the end, when they're kissing as the switch has been thrown and the fucking music swells and the lights spark, that shit felt like the end of an adventure movie.
Yeah.
And like I really appreciated the fact that they didn't, like you was talking about, Brian, they didn't retread the first film just for the sake of, oh, these were the popular beats of the first film. Let's just do it again. Let's just retell the same.
It creates
jokes or
its
whatever.
own beats,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
instead of always running to the same people in the promenade, we do revisit that scene for 1 second, which I just adored seeing those people back. I was like, Greenpeace lady, boyfriend, you're gay. Just move on.
I'm sad because now in this alternate universe, that gay guy is going to be way less comfortable with it. She just sentenced him with 6 more weeks in the closet.
No. We saw him in the movie at the stands
game.
at the basketball
That was
game.
the guy she gave the thumbs
And
up
she
to.
got the thumbs up. He had grown because of that quick
But
interaction.
I'm saying on the redo, in that particular universe, in the redo after the stands, like she kind of had to rush through all of her good person stuff.
yeah.
And remember, she just walks up to him and tells him he's gay in kind of a condescending way. And I'm just saying that she didn't get to break it to him as gently as she did
film.
in the first round.
Yeah.
That's true. I guess
Luckily,
that is
she's
true.
going back to her own universe where the damage isn't done and his life is great.
But what I love about the second film is the gag doesn't become that. The gag becomes, in this universe, Danielle and Carter are together, and she has no connection with Carter, and she's forced to not only relive those scenes over and over again, she's forced to relive watching Carter making out with Danielle.
One of my favorite parts is when she jumps out of the fucking airplane,
Yes.
lands right in
Yeah.
front of them, and they slow down. And I love their reaction, how they lose their shit. That shit was hilarious.
Give me a gif of that
Yeah.
immediately.
I love what makes the cool sorority girl accessible in this alternate universe is an interest in theater, because that is the truth.
I thought all that stuff, and speaking to that point, that's really what hit me and connected with me was that whole idea of the hard decision that Tree has to make being in this multiverse. The fact that now she has her mother back, who's passed away in her universe, and those conversations that she has with her mother, and at one moment that she has with Carter, when Carter says, like, look, you trying to live someone else's life, like the stuff that's happened to you in your past makes you who you are. So it's like you staying here, basically trying to run from your life from your past. That's not who you are. And I love those conversations that she was having with her mother.
And not only that, if she were to stay there, she's robbing another Tree of that experience.
Of that experience. And I mean, and I could definitely see the confliction that Tree has with that. And it's so interesting because, I mean, watching it today, I mean, it damn near brought me to tears because it made me think about my own situation with my father. And I always, and it's so funny because I think about that a lot. Like, with watching this film, because I've had these thoughts in my own mind where it's just like, man, if my father was alive, would I still have the friends that I have? Would I be living here on the East Coast? Like, how would my life be? And I like everything that I have and that I love. Like, would I trade that to have my father back? And it's like, and seeing that in this movie, it just hit me in such a profound way that I was just like, damn, it was. And I like that the movie talks about that and explores that in such a real and honest way. It's interesting, just the whole idea of that multiverse. And it goes to what you were saying, Lisa, like, is there another version of ourselves? Like when we were talking about Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, no,
like,
I'm obsessed with the multiverse.
it's like, is there another version of me, who has their mother and father and living this other life and all this other different things? Like, I think about stuff like that. Even as a kid, I wonder about stuff like that, and the fact that this movie can explore that and how it really was able to get to me was just so profound. It's such a poignant film in that way.
I think it's beautiful that they're able to take this slapstick horror comedy film and come out with like a real, genuine message. Would you rather fix your past, or should you spend your life fixing your present? And I think about that all the time. I think that's really beautiful.
And that's another thing I love about the film, and that this is a Blumhouse slasher horror comedy with such great character work. Like I just wasn't expecting that. And even at the scene at the dinner, not the dinner table, but the table when they bring the birthday cake out and the music swells there, and her and they like, goddamn, why am I feeling this fuzzy way and watching this goddamn slasher movie? Like, what the hell?
I was like, oh.
and that slow motion where mom and daughter blow out the candle.
I was moved by that.
It's
I'm like,
misty in here.
This is Happy Death Day 2. Why am I moved?
Even the performance of the mom. Of her going like, my daughter is being super weird, but she is a college kid. And just talking to her in that super motherly tone.
In the hotel room, in the bed.
There, but also at the restaurant,
the
where like Tree is practically like sitting in her lap, being comforted, and like Tree is emotionally falling apart and weeping, and the mom is just full on using mom voice, like you just have to do what's best for you because I'm very lucky I created you. I wouldn't change anything about that, but now it's your turn and it's your life, and in the mom's head, she's thinking like, I'd never go back to my early 20s. It's a terrible time. Everything is so dramatic.
Yeah.
But yeah, I loved that performance.
Same.
Yeah, like even what Carter was saying, he was like, you have a chance that other people never have. You have a chance to say goodbye. And I think that's something that we all think about with people that we lose, like, and not saying the things that you were able to say to them. And the fact that she has this opportunity to say goodbye, it's just, it was.
It's the old heartstrings.
Yeah, man. I really dug this movie.
Same. The director says he has a crazy ass idea for the third film.
What?
Yeah, and I'm like, this second film was freaking crazy.
Well,
it was great.
I guess we should talk about the ending then. The stinger, the mid-credit stinger.
I didn't see it.
Oh, what? You didn't stay?
Tell me, what is it?
It had a Men in Black kind of feel to it.
It was really bizarre.
Tell me.
So, the credits come up. There's that cover of Staying Alive.
Yeah.
And then the scene opens back up. They're at college. And, the Men in Black show up.
Yeah.
What?
So they're
the real Men in Black?
Yeah, like a government agency.
Oh.
And then there's a SUV. And they're like, Tree, we need you and your friends to come with us right now.
Yeah. Come to DARPA.
Come to DARPA.
Yeah.
And they drive to a secret location where there's a base, and they're all walking as a group, the whole team. How does it? What's the dialogue? I can't remember the exact words.
Well, they've recreated Sissy, like a huge version of Sissy, and they need Ryan's help along with Tree's help because of all of the algorithms and stuff she memorized.
They have to navigate
because she has the algorithm that they need,
and they need somebody to volunteer
as a test subject.
And then cut to Danielle strapped into a chair, and she's like screaming.
No, she's in bed. Like
she's in bed.
She sits up in bed, and she's like, ah.
Yeah,
because she wakes up in a time loop.
Yeah, she wakes up in a time loop.
Yeah, because
she's not in a chair strapped down.
Yeah, because Tree says
no, that was just in your dreams.
It was.
Because Tree says I know somebody that'll be perfect, and then it cuts to Danielle in bed in her room, and the camera zooms in, and she wakes up and starts yelling,
and she's in the loop. Yeah,
shit.
I don't know how I feel about there being a third movie with Danielle.
Well, I want 12 films. To me, it's like once you get to like Friday the 13th 4, you're just like, how many more can there be? Bring it. I want to see all the adventures of Jason. Saw films. Jigsaw. Keep doing your thing. Jigsaw gets more and more convoluted as that series extends, and you realize that like Saws 3 through 6 all take place in the same afternoon. Yeah. I want that for Happy Death Day.
If they can continue to be as clever with the franchise as they has been with the first two films, I'd be all for it. Because like you, Lisa, when the first one ended, as much as I love that film, if you'd have said, all right, Darren, you want a sequel? What would the sequel be like? I'd be like, how can you make a sequel to that movie? I don't even know if I want one, but here we are with Happy Death Day to You, and it's great. So if they can do that again and again and again,
I know
that'd
be awesome. And I like the homage to because the first film references Groundhog's Day,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
this one kind of references Back to the Future too.
Yeah.
And I noticed like how they use some of the musical cues
Yep, I
from Back
noticed
to the
that too.
Future too.
Yeah.
Like anytime they have like a thought, you hear that little like xylophone sound from Back to the. So I like that. Bear McCreary did the score, and I like how he was able to kind of put those musical cues from Back to the Future.
He's a fun
too.
componer.
Yeah. So I thought that was really
So does
cool.
the next one take cues from Looper or Terminator?
Terminator would be great.
I don't know. I just know that I am there for it.
Yeah, it was fun.
But it would be weird to completely separate Jessica Roth from the story. If that's what they are setting up with Rachel Matthews. I mean, like I said, I like Rachel Matthews as this character.
And it's not like her character couldn't spend a little time in the rock tumbler of
that's the thing.
Groundhog Day.
Like, how great would that be to take this real cliche joke of a character from the first film? They gave her some dimension in Happy Death Day to You, and now make her the hero of the third movie and give her real motivation.
Yeah.
It's happened before. Charisma Carpenter and Buffy.
Yeah. Let's Charisma Carpenter her.
But just because she says I know someone who'd be perfect, and we see Danielle, and we also see that the second film opens with not.
Yep, that's true.
The lead character, so it doesn't mean that a tree doesn't have to be involved. I mean, if Danielle is involved, then Tree is a part of her life.
Still goes to that school,
right? So I think she'll still return.
They'll become the Sunnydale. No, I'm just going to turn it into.
But it would be cool also, Brett, to your point, to see her have a character growth and arc like the same way Tree did. So I don't know. I'm game. If this we're gonna get a yearly franchise from this film series, then I'd be happy. Yeah. I'd be happy as long as they keep up in the ante and they stay creative with it. I'll be good.
My favorite movie of the year so far.
Damn!
Oh wow!
I've only seen 3 movies.
Oh,
new movies this year.
So you like this more than Alita Battle Angel?
Yeah. I mean, I like them both. But I gave this 4 stars. Alita 3.5. But both. I mean, this is a good
warms
weekend.
my heart that Brian gave this movie 4 stars.
I loved it. I absolutely loved it. So yeah.
Yay!
Great weekend for movies.
All right. Anything anybody want to say in closing before we wrap this shit up?
Welcome to the In the Mouth of Darkness podcast. That was Darren's voice.
That was me. All right. Well, what are we looking forward to this week?
What am I looking forward to this week?
Theatrically, the third How to Train Your Dragon. I haven't seen any of those movies.
Really?
Brian, you would love the first film.
No, I want to.
I love
That's your
Toothless.
assignment this week. You watched Happy Death Day 1 to prepare for Happy Death Day to You.
Okay.
You need to, at the very least, watch the first How to Train Your Dragon. If you don't get to How to Train Your Dragon 2, that's okay.
Okay.
It's not as good as the first one, but the first one is so good.
Oh, really? Because I've heard some people say they like the second one better, but the first one.
Only my opinion is accurate.
There you go.
First movie is the best one.
Yeah, I do want to check those out because everybody says they're so good. But
And I think you would really like it.
okay.
You would. I
All
think
right.
you would be.
All right.
You can follow that guy at the Turtle Dork on Twitter, at the Turtle Dork 1 on Instagram, and at Brian William Young on Facebook. He is also all over our ItMod YouTube channel. You can check him out there, and myself as well in our Game of Thrones recaps and his trailer reactions. Wife Dork,
Yes.
what you looking forward to?
I'm not sure.
No.
I guess I am looking forward to How to Train Your Dragons 3. I have seen the other movies.
Yeah, that's because you made good life choices.
Major Toothless fan. I
Yep.
think he is so sweet.
Yep.
I'm looking forward to more Star Trek Discovery.
Any shows on Netflix, bacon shows and shit that you usually like?
I've
No?
really I started trying to
You
watch.
watched all the bacon shows already?
I started trying to watch Nailed It Mexico.
Oh.
Which is interesting because it's dubbed.
Huh.
Like they don't have subtitles.
Subtitle option?
That's
Maybe
bad
they have-
call. Bad call.
So that element is really bizarre. And then also Nailed It is not the same without Nicole Byer. Like she makes that show.
Yeah.
And I've watched everything else, so I'm not sure. We'll just have to see. You'll just have to tune in next week.
Yeah. All right. Well, you can, if you're going to tune in next week. In between, then you can follow her at Sidewalk Siren and at Baked Dork on Twitter and Instagram. She is also at Sidewalk Siren on Letterboxd, and you can also check her writings out
Ooh.
at After Movie Diner
Aftermoviediner.com. That's me.
Brad Gullickson.
Yes.
Mouth Dork.
Yes.
What you looking for?
I'm looking forward to How to Train Your Dragon 3 as well.
Yeah.
On Tuesday, I know I've told Darren, but
Yeah.
Brian showed up late, so I haven't been able to tell Brian yet. I'm going on a secret mission for Film School Rejects to Portland, Oregon.
Ooh, so start Googling around, seeing if you can sleuth out exactly where Brad's going to be.
Yeah,
I'm going to
Portland. I'm going to see exciting things. I'm going to do exciting things, and then I'll be back like 3 days later.
Yeah,
it's a set visit.
It is a set visit, kind of.
Okay.
That's a teaser. I'll tell you off air.
All right.
But I'm incredibly excited, and I think I'll be able to share this story before I share either the set visits I did last year, which is crazy. But
has anybody started watching The Umbrella Academy?
Not yet.
No, I've been hearing good
I
things.
liked that comic book.
Oh, it's a comic.
Yeah, it's like a kind of like a twisted, like mutants X-Men type story.
It's been getting good reviews.
Yeah.
It's got Ellen Page in it. I like Ellen Page.
I like
and
Ellen
I like
That is her. Okay.
yeah.
All right. Well,
It's got Mary J. Blige in it.
really?
yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. I gotta check that shit out. All right. You can
The original comic was written by Gerard Way of My Chemical Romance.
he writes a ton of comic books
Yep.
for DC. He's currently writing the Doom Patrol comic for DC.
He's great.
Really? That first episode, the pilot episode of Doom Patrol, has been getting great reviews.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't watched either because I really know nothing about Doom Patrol, and I've always wanted to read the Grant Morrison run, and I refuse to be introduced to these characters before I read that comic book series.
All right. And you're also, you said the Itmot Chatcast channel is coming up soon.
Yeah, this week we're going to drop that. The first episode is going to feature our interview with Alexander O. Felipe, the director of Memory, Origins of Alien. We did that at Sundance earlier this year. And we have like 6 chatcasts from Sundance that are coming to your ears real soon.
And also one final thing from you, B. The at the time of this episode airing, they should be able to check out the new episode of Comic Book Couples Counseling, right?
Yes, Batman Year One. Lisa and I read the classic Frank Miller book and had a really lengthy and interesting conversation talking about not necessarily the romance of Batman and Catwoman like we originally planned, but we talk about the romance of poor Detective Jim Gordon
and Barbara
Gordon. Yeah, sad for them.
Put upon wife.
Yep.
Oh, all right. You can follow that guy at Mouth Dork on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Letterboxd, and Untapped. I am looking forward to How to Train Your Dragons, the third one as well. I am going to see. Shame on me. I should have pulled the name of this movie. Brad, the movie about the Korean film about the Earth.
Yeah, it's the science fiction Korean film that you were talking about earlier before. Yeah, you were really excited about that. That title is something.
I'm going to go see that before the end of the week so I can talk about it. I almost was going to catch it today. Oh, The Wandering Earth.
Yes, The Wandering Earth. That's what I was just going to say.
Yeah, so like it looks interesting. I just want to see how they explain this shit away. Earth is because of global warming and some other catastrophic nature related shit. Earth is thrown back into another ice age apparently. And so everyone bands together on the planet and decide that we need to move Earth out of this solar system into another solar system to save the planet. And yeah, I need to see the science behind that. You can follow me at the Disco Dork on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. That's going to do it for us. Enjoy the rest of your week. Stay tuned. For Friday, we have a fistful of dragons in honor of How to Train Your Dragon Part 3.
Every pick, Don the Dragon Wilson.
On Brad's list. That's going to do it for us. Thank you all for listening. Enjoy the rest of your week. And until next time.
You guys look like... What do they look like, Jimmy?
Dorks. They look like a couple of dorks.
Get those birds!
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
What? Are you kidding? We got some family here. Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
You are listening to the In the Mouth of Dorkness podcast, the official podcast of the Alamo Drafthouse, Winchester.
I'm recording.
Hugh Jackman has balls on his chin.
That's what I've heard. I'm recording in 3. That's a stinger. 2, 1.